Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling great and having yourselves a great start to your week. I got you a big update this morning on the tropics, and then we're going to talk about what's going to happen weather-wise for today. But we'll talk about the tropics in the beginning. I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to take up probably 80-85% of the video, as we got a lot to talk about. We have Idalia out there, which by the time some of you folks watch this video, it might be a hurricane. As of right at this moment, it's still technically a tropical storm, but that's not going to change the information I'm about to give you. This is now forecast to now become a major hurricane. Okay, that's 115 mile per hour or stronger hurricane, category 3 or higher. So this is turning into that worst case scenario, which always had a better chance of happening than the best case scenario, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of other opinions also. The National Hurricane Center has been talking about it. Even some very conservative sources have been, hinting at the fact that this could be big, and it's unfortunately looking like it's going to do so, as Idalia has been ahead of schedule over the last 1 to 2 days. So we're going to talk about what she looks like right now, the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. We're going to talk about, we're going to compare model guidance with the global models and the hurricane models. And then we're going to talk about impacts. What do we know as of now? So we're going to get very detailed in this video for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over? As always, please put those in the comments below. Unfortunately, we need to pray for the folks. Well, not unfortunately, but you get what I'm saying. Unfortunately, we're going to have a tough situation in Florida, so we do need to pray for our folks in Florida. I mean, even areas into North Florida, like Southeast Georgia also, this could still be a hurricane as it's moving into areas of Southeast Georgia. So there's a lot going on. We're going to figure it out for you folks. Let's get rolling. The latest information from the National Hurricane Center. This is a 989 millibar low pressure tropical storm. But like I said, by the time, this might be a hurricane by the time we get to the 8 a.m. update here in about 45 minutes to an hour. So that, I think that'll be the only information that changes. But I mean, it's a pretty low pressure storm, a 989 millibar tropical storm, 65 miles per hour, and it has now began to move north, and it's starting to pick up some speed. I know 7 miles per hour doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot compared to how slow and basically stationary Idalia has been in the Northwest Caribbean for a couple of days now. So we look at the latest cone. All right, this is the latest cone of uncertainty, and unfortunately we have that M on here now, which means major. That stands for major. We have hurricane watches, which I expect to get upgraded to warnings sometime this morning or a little bit later this afternoon. This will likely get upgraded to a hurricane warning. We'll probably get tropical storm warnings issued on either side of this, but this looks like it's going to head into the Big Bend region, but I cannot say this enough. If you live in Tampa Bay, the Clearwater, Sarasota region, I know you guys are already on high alert with this because you saw what happened with Ian when it was forecast to go north, and all of a sudden it ended up going south of the Tampa Bay region. This storm is going to bring a lot of storm surge into Tampa Bay. Okay, so I know you guys are on high alert, so it kind of goes without me saying, but that's what we're here to do, keep people aware. This could very well move a little bit further west. The models are still kind of seesawing back and forth. Okay, that's why we got to continue to pump out the updates. But as of now, like I said, 65 mile per hour tropical storm. We expect this to upgrade to a hurricane at any time now, honestly. Okay, but it will still be a hurricane by 1 p.m. in North Florida, the Georgia-Florida line, and this will continue to head off the coast of South Carolina. But if you notice, the cone has shifted east, which brings less impacts further inland to Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. But this could change. Okay, this thing is still down here in the Northwest Caribbean. All right, it hasn't even crossed technically into the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so just remember that. But like I said, another way to look at this is called Zoom Earth. Awesome free site that's available to you guys for the public. You don't have to pay for this. It combines Google Maps with the tropics. It's an awesome site. I found out about it, I believe, 2 years ago, and I ain't looked back. It's just a great site. Like I said, this should be a hurricane. This should be Hurricane Idalia by the time we get into late morning, early this afternoon, and then it'll strengthen to an 80 mile per hour hurricane by tonight, and then it'll be a category 2 100 mile per hour hurricane by 2 p.m. tomorrow, and then by 2 a.m. Wednesday 2 a.m. Wednesday, so Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, this most likely will be a 115 mile per hour major Category 3 hurricane, and it's still strengthening. So which means, I mean, technically, if we were to make this the grand conclusion, which it is not, this is still strengthening, and it's still way out in the ocean, okay? So this, I could see this continuing to increase, guys. I mean, it could make it as far as a Category 4, and who knows, a Category 5 hurricane. We know what we saw with Michael. We know what we saw with Ian. So we know what the Gulf of Mexico can do. I'm not trying to come on here and scream at you guys, tell y'all to just everybody leave Florida. It doesn't matter where you live and that everybody's going to die. That's not what I'm here doing. A lot of people might take that approach, but I'm not going to do that. We're here to just give you the facts, talk about what we know. And as we get closer, we're going to really need to figure out, and we will know who needs to truly evacuate and not. So let's take a look at Idalia right now. Okay, if you tuned in last night's video, I talked about some dry air on the north side of Idalia up into the Gulf of Mexico. This was getting wrapped into the center of circulation. Well, if the center of circulation is probably right into here somewhere. As the sun comes up on the satellite visibility, we'll probably get a better view on where that actual center circulation is. We're starting to get that mid-level convection that's starting to bubble up over that low-level circulation, okay? So that means you're getting these hot towers, which basically is explosive convection over the heart of this tropical system, which is that low-level circulation. So it was dry air was struggling, was basically helping to keep this system at bay for a while. All right, but now you have an explosive area of thunderstorm development that has formed on the northern side of this low-level circulation, which is right here, and this is basically going to moisten up that atmosphere even more so. So this is basically acts as a protected wall for that low-level circulation, the heart and soul of this tropical system. And in my opinion, it's game on from here on out with Idalia. I really think it's going to, at minimum, do gradual strengthening from this moment going forward due to the fact that this is getting some wraparound banding. It's not dealing with much dry air and shear on top of it anymore. Still a little bit this morning, but not as much. And another way to look at this is the water vapor loop. You see the blacks right in here in the Gulf of Mexico. That stands for dry in all levels of the atmosphere. But this was way into this area yesterday evening. Now you got some kind of green, some bluish tints. That means moist low to mid levels. Okay, and even moist upper levels mixed in here too. So you're starting to get just moist in all levels. And if you notice, you see these storms beginning to develop north of Idalia. This indicates that the atmosphere is moistened up. If this was all dry, you wouldn't get any storm development. You would have stable air. But the atmosphere north of Idalia is beginning to moisten up. You see this thing digging in right here? That is a little upper low that's digging down, going to yank Idalia northward and ultimately make impact with Florida. So I think this shows it well. You can see that explosive storm development just north of the center of circulation. I really think it's game on from here on out. Then you see Franklin is now a major hurricane this morning, and soon, like an eye on Franklin, you're going to get that eye eventually on Idalia. Okay, so let's compare all model guidance. We'll talk about what's pulling this north, and then we'll talk about impacts. Okay, so latest and greatest GFS run. One trend I am noticing is yesterday we were trending this to speed up, meaning I was thinking it was going to make landfall sometime Tuesday night into the early morning hours of Wednesday. Okay. Latest trend over, I would say, the last 6 to 12 hours is it's slowing back down, which means it maybe makes landfall maybe as the sun is coming up Wednesday morning. Let's take a look at the latest GFS starting off Tuesday morning. Here it comes approaching at the bottom of your screen. All right, we're getting into, let's just go on and take it all the way to Wednesday morning. All right, look how much this has increased. When the global models begin to really strengthen a tropical system, that's when you really need to be concerned. And all of them have done that. The Euro, the GFS, and this is the GFS, has a 956 millibar low pressure hurricane Wednesday morning. And it still has not made landfall yet. This is at around 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, and this is still tucked into the northeast Gulf of Mexico. I would argue that this is getting close to, this is probably a mid-grade, high-end Category 2 hurricane at this point. Maybe stronger, maybe a little weaker. But regardless, all we can do is base this off the millibar. If you notice, it's a 989 millibar tropical storm right now. So, that's one thing to consider. But let's not get too caught up in this. So this continues. This makes landfall into Florida sometime late Wednesday morning into the early afternoon hours. Is probably a sub 960 millibar low pressure hurricane. Okay, but look how further west it is. All right, this is more so into the Panhandle of Florida. Okay, right where the northern areas of the Big Bend region meets the Panhandle of Florida. You keep this rolling here. I don't want to spend too long on one individual model. I struggle with doing that sometimes. I just start talking and I can't stop. So, but you keep this rolling. We're getting into Wednesday evening at this point. This is bringing tropical storm force, maybe low-end hurricane conditions into southeast Georgia. I mean, even some brutal conditions into central Georgia too. This could cause power outages well inland. I fully expect tropical storm warnings to be issued even into Georgia. I mean, maybe even to the low country of South Carolina, especially if this takes a track that's similar to the GFS. If the GFS is correct, this would bring more impacts further north. I mean, Augusta to Columbia, Florence, even up to Charlotte, you would get a shield of rain. But the GFS, I will note, is the most furthest west. Okay, I want to note that. It's probably the model that is the most furthest west. So it's kind of that outlier that way, if that makes any sense. But by the time we're Thursday morning, we're still dealing with this tropical system. And then by the time we're getting into Thursday evening, we're still dealing with some rain in the Carolinas, but this is beginning to clear up. But I can tell you, it's a little bit of a slower trend. All right. European. What does the European do? I can tell you the European's already off. All right. It's initializing Tuesday morning. Is this I thought about not even showing the European model, honestly. But it's initializing it as a 995 storm Tuesday morning. It's Monday morning, 24 hours earlier right now, and it's already a 989 millibar low pressure storm. So it's already weaker 24 hours into the future. Doesn't make sense, right? So you can forget about the strength on this, but I will tell you with the Euro, it is stuck to its guns as far as it wanting to make landfall in the Big Bend region of Florida. Okay, it is stuck on that the entirety of trying to figure out this tropical system. If the Euro is correct, it would bring. It's hard to even take the strength of this series because it's already stronger than this right now. But it basically takes that path into the Big Bend region and then gets this into eastern South Carolina. But you notice, I mean, this is on off the Carolina coastline by Thursday morning. GFS, I mean, you still got this low pressure over South Carolina. So the two global models do not agree. But as far as strength, I have to agree with the GFS. Even though the GFS is drunk half the time, I have to agree with the GFS with this. Okay? But as far as location, I think it might be a little bit too far west. I really do. Let's look at the HHAF model. It's a hurricane model. It is definitely a work in progress, but is definitely a decently reliable hurricane model. It's initializing this pretty well, a little bit stronger than what it actually is, but it very well could be this strong. I mean, the hurricane hunters went into this and found a pressure of 989. There'll be more that goes into this a little bit later. In fact, there probably is some on the way right now. Hadn't even looked at that, but initializing this pretty much on par. This continues. Will definitely bring some hurricane force conditions into the far western areas of Cuba, where there is hurricane warnings later this afternoon. You keep this rolling, guys. This gets into the Gulf of Mexico at this point. We're getting into Tuesday morning, saying this is going to be a 975 millibar low pressure hurricane. And as you can tell, if you're not familiar with millibars, just remember, the more this number right here drops, the stronger a system with anything, not just the tropics, but with any low pressure system. The lower the number, the stronger the system's getting. This is when I get concerned about rapid intensification. Okay, you go from, when is this? This is around 11 a.m. Eastern time, Tuesday morning, and then you go to 2 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday afternoon, and this drops 18 millibars. That is definitely rapid intensification. All right, Tampa Bay starting to come up on your screen right here. This brings some nasty outer bands, probably pushing water into Tampa Bay. These outer bands can be tornadic. This is what we call the dirty side of the system. The right side of the system, eastern side of a tropical system, it's the dirty side. You have basically a low-level jet being pulled up which basically is raging winds about a mile up in the atmosphere, even stronger than at the surface. And basically, in these outer bands, you can get tornadic activity, okay? Tornadoes, for sure. Fast-moving tornadoes. Okay, you're getting into the middle of the night. At this point, it's 2 a.m. It's 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. This is a 934 millibar hurricane. This would probably be a high-end Category 3 or, just a full-fledged Category 4 hurricane, I would say. This makes landfall, the latest run. This pulls it into the panhandle of Florida. Okay, I would say, what area is this? Brings it into the kind of the Perry region, really bad impacts to Crawfordville. Highway, Route 98, which basically goes from the Panhandle all the way through the Big Bend region, all the way down to, I believe, Tampa. This will be basically a road network that a lot of storm chasers are going to be riding along to try to figure out and trying to get into that core of the hurricane. And by the way, I will be chasing this hurricane. I haven't said that much. I'll go live probably a little later today, but I do plan on chasing this hurricane. I'll get more detail on that later on. Not trying to talk about that right now, but this comes in. You got to watch out. Was that Panacea? I'm sure I butchered that name, but basically, if this model is correct, you basically need to watch out for the St. James Island region and this entire region right here, the Panhandle. If you're a new viewer, I'm bad about I messed up that word. I'm bad about messing up town names. Please correct me. I'm not going to take offense to it. I'll probably do it again in some more videos, but my punctuation skills is not great. So this makes landfall as a sub 940 millibar low pressure hurricane right where the northern areas of the Big Bend meets the Panhandle. And this is further west than the last model. In fact, the other one has basically the run before this on the HF model was already pushed this into the Panhandle, and it's already moving into Georgia. The latest run, it's slower. It still has it way back over here in North Florida, the Panhandle of Florida. So it's slower and it's further west. You got to watch for a west trend. Yesterday, it was the east trend. Today, are we going to get a west trend? That's why the cone of uncertainty is there. Because I think a lot of people just think that, if you're in the cone but you're away from that actual center that it's showing, that it's just not going to impact you. There's a reason the cone is there, all right, because it's kind of a buffer that they can move back and forth. If you're in the cone, you have a chance to get a direct impact from a hurricane. Just remember that, guys. I think a lot of people misunderstand the cone of uncertainty, and it sometimes can be very confusing, I understand. But this makes landfall here, brings hurricane, the tropical storm force conditions all out into southeast Georgia. I think if you're in South Georgia, southeast Georgia, you definitely need to be aware of this. I know you're not on the coastline, okay, but this could bring a full-fledged tropical system right into the heart of Georgia, southeast Georgia. And even the low country of South Carolina, the HF model is correct. You still got a tropical storm rolling into the low country of South Carolina and bringing impacts Wednesday night into Thursday morning, okay? You look at the HMON model here, this hurricane model, it's initializing it to weak. But we'll go on and keep this rolling here. Same deal. Look at this number dropping like crazy. We're getting the Tuesday afternoon, and then we get all the way to Wednesday morning. And if you stop it here, look at these outer bands going into the Tampa, Sarasota region, Clearwater. All right, this is a little bit further east. Okay, this follows more so the cone a little bit more. And the Big Bend region, like the Euro model. This makes landfall a little bit weaker, actually a good bit weaker than the HF model, as sometime Wednesday morning as around a 950-ish millibar hurricane. Okay, this would probably be a Category 3 hurricane at this point. Okay, high-end Category 2, Category 3 hurricane. And same thing, it brings bad impacts into southeast Georgia, not as far inland, and really hits the low country of South Carolina, and even the Midlands, the PD of South Carolina, pretty hard Wednesday night. Okay, so, this is serious, guys. And we probably have the 06Z hurricane models coming in now. This is a pretty serious situation. I'll go over this again because I think it's important to understand. But this is Tuesday morning. As you can tell, this is already beginning to move northward because it's getting stronger. Stronger storms like to gain latitude. They like to move further north. But if you back this up here, okay, this is right around right now. And I just showed you this. You can actually see this feature right here on the water vapor loop. You see this thing coming down right here? All right, that is what this is right here. This is actually helping to yank on Idalia. Okay, you see the winds moving like, I ain't gonna draw on this because it causes me to have to click on a bunch of icons, but I'm just gonna try to move the cursor very slowly. You see these arrows right here going down. You got winds coming out the north and the upper levels of the atmosphere, and then you got winds coming out the west to the east in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and then they hook down and then they go back to the north out the south. So this flow out the south helps pull on this tropical system. Also, there is a ridge right over here. Okay, this is creating a push to the south too. You see these streamlines coming from the south right into here. So between this kind of upper low right here and the ridge right into here, and I will draw on this. Okay, so you got the flow moving like that, and then you got the ridge putting the flow like this. This is going to bring this tropical system upward like that. But there's a couple other things. Is how fast does this feature right here move out? What goes on with this ridge? What is the positioning of this? But basically, you're going to get an avenue between this flow. Okay, and then you got a big trough pushing down, which, by the way, I haven't had a chance to talk about this. Could bring some delightful air for the southeast. I mean, really and truly our first taste of fall, potentially Friday morning, maybe as early as Thursday morning. Okay, so you got this front moving down. This is also going to aid in a kind of a pulling mechanism or pushing mechanism, if you will. And if we get this in motion here, here it comes. This is that deep digging trough, and this system right here begins to fill this deep digging trough too. And this is just your classic front coming through and really kicking a tropical system out. This happens a lot. Here it comes, and we'll get this back on your screen. And this is digging down. This is pushing on this storm, and it's going to kick this out this way as this basically this front digs in. It'll push the rest of Idalia on out to sea. But how far inland does it make it? It's a big question. There's still a lot of questions. There'll be questions all the way up until we really know what's going to happen. And that's just weather for you. We're not rocket scientists. Some maybe are, but we never know truly exactly what's going to happen. Okay. The impacts of this, guys, the rainfall from this continues to increase. We have a stripe of 6 to 10 inches of rain expected. Now, this is shifted further east away from Tallahassee, but this could just as easily shift back into Tallahassee. I think yesterday, Tallahassee they were calling for 6 to 10 inches of rain when I made the video this morning. I meant this yesterday evening. Now this morning, this corridor of very heavy rain that moves all the way into southeast Georgia has shifted east. But look how much rain they're expecting for Tampa Bay. Potential for 6 to 10 inches of rain. And one thing to note, guys, is it's looking like this is going to be not a really compact storm. So for you folks in South Florida that has been around a while, not calling anybody old, they know that Hurricane Andrew was an incredibly strong hurricane, right? But it was a very small hurricane, very compact. It's looking like Idalia is going to be more on the broad side. She's going to be a hefty girl. Okay, so it's certainly something to consider with rainfall. How far away from center are these winds? Definitely needs to be watched. But in the yellow, that's 4 to 6 inches of rain. I really think a lot of rain could fall in southeast Georgia and the eastern Carolinas, and even a stripe of 6 to 10 inches of rain from Myrtle Beach to Wilmington up to the southern areas of the Outer Banks. And you can see this already. Basically, this is the day 1 to 5 excessive rainfall outlook. I wouldn't be surprised we get an upgrade to a high risk. Maybe not, just because how quick this is going to be moving in and out. But you got that high risk, which means there's at least a 40% risk of flash flood guidance being met from the Big Bend region of Florida, North Florida, the coastal regions of Georgia, into the coastal regions, low country of South Carolina and southeast North Carolina. And then you got the slight risk in the yellow, 15% risk of flash flooding occurring. Okay. Winds. Okay. And winds, we're steadily getting a better idea, but we really got to hone in on the exact impacts. Okay. But chances of seeing tropical storm force winds, that's 39 miles per hour or higher on a 1 minute average. You pretty much got a 80 to 100% chance of it into areas of Tampa Bay all the way up into the Big Bend region. Okay, we know that the east side of the storm is probably going to be the hefty side. The east side of the storm is going to be the most dangerous side, and a lot of times that is the case. The east side is where the area of the storm that is going to have the most impacts and probably your heaviest convection, things like that. And unfortunately, that east side is going to be the side that covers more land. Tampa Bay, even though you might not take a direct impact from this hurricane, guys, I think you're going to get some direct big-time impacts from this for sure. But this continues, and I mean, you got over a 60 to 70% chance to see tropical storm force winds even into Jacksonville. Okay, and we'll show you this. This is the HFA model. All right, and this is kind of one of your worst case scenarios, right? This model, let's show this really quick. If we can get this in, this model has a landfalling hurricane into the Big Bend region as basically around, well, it's not the worst case scenario. Some other models had a 930 something millibar hurricane, but makes landfall as a 950-ish millibar hurricane Wednesday morning, okay, which I would argue that's probably a high-end Category 2, Category 3 hurricane. So honestly, I would argue this is probably the middle ground, right? I could see this being much stronger than this, but really we're just showing you this for one reason and to give you an example of what the winds would be in this situation. So we keep moving here. This is wind speeds, not wind gusts. All right, here comes the winds, and as you can tell, just like with any hurricane, guys, the worst winds is right up against the low pressure. We call this the eye wall of the hurricane, and this would bring, if you look here in these pinkish, dark pinkish colors right here, that is winds pushing over 100 miles per hour. Okay, example of winds, but look, I mean, you got strong winds moving into Tampa Bay too, winds outside this, but this is that core right here, right, that moves right into the northern Big Bend region, or the central, right into the Big Bend area, and this would bring devastating storm surge and winds in this area. And as you can tell, the windshield, the windshield of this is still there as we're getting into southeast Georgia, but obviously with the interaction with land, the wind diminishes. But one thing to note here is I think that we're going to get storm surge into Charleston, all these low country areas of South Carolina, Georgia, and this because center of circulation going like this, right? Okay, so you're still going to have winds way over here going like this. So this is going to push storm surge even to the coastal regions of South Carolina, guys. Okay, because you got the flow going like that, just like any hurricane in the northern hemisphere. All right, so this is going to push storm surge. So we're going to have issues. I mean, even into Charleston, Beaufort, Hilton Head region, Savannah, got to watch out. I mean, even Myrtle Beach. I mean, you get a strong tropical storm, guys, and Myrtle Beach, the piers start breaking, and we get just a lot of storm surge in this region. It seems like we break a record every time we get a storm system these days. So I always worry for my folks here in South Carolina, which is, if you don't know, that's where I live, what a major hurricane would do to our coastline like Hugo again. I really do. It's inevitable. It's going to happen again, but yeah. But let's keep rolling. Speaking of storm surge, let's see if this has increased. Nope, it has not. Still 7 to 11 feet of storm surge, the Big Bend region. We now have a forecast of 4 to 7 feet of storm surge into Tampa Bay. Remember, this is going to be circulating like this. So this is pushing water up against the Bay regions right here. And yeah, so this is going to change, but this is what we're dealing with right now as far as storm surge. One thing I have not mentioned yet is the severe weather threat with this. The dirty side of this system, I already mentioned it early in the video, has a raging low-level jet, which provides a lot of spin, a lot of wind shear for tornadoes. So we already have a slight risk tomorrow from these outer bands that will be approaching the area. And with this slight risk, this includes Tampa Bay, Sarasota, all the way north to the Big Bend region. With this Gainesville too, with this slight risk, you have the tornado threat. You got a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in this brown region. This is not surprising at all. It typically happens with tropical systems. If any landmass is being affected by that dirty side of that tropical system, you're going to get a tornado threat. No doubt about it. And then we get into day 3, which is our Wednesday. You're going to have a tornado threat basically from North Florida all the way up into Myrtle Beach. And I know this is really hugged up against the coastal areas, but it just basically just depends on wherever that center of circulation goes. So if it's right around here, I know it's a terrible L, and it's going like this, all these areas right here will be on that dirty side and will be getting hit by these outer bands. Okay, so this will likely be a 5% risk of a tornado issued for this also. Okay. All right, that's it on that. We'll do it again tonight. Quick update on Franklin. I don't have a lot of information on Franklin, to be honest, guys. It's a 115 mile per hour major hurricane. Bermuda's clear. out the cone. And now we still need to watch in Bermuda, but as of now, impacts are devastating impacts are not expected. You guys could get some gusty winds, definitely some rough seas, but as far as getting hit by a hurricane, not going to happen. Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, I think you're good. You're really close on the southeast of Newfoundland to being in the cone, but I think for now, you don't have anything to worry about. So let's talk about what's going to happen today, and we'll fly through this quick. And for our normal viewers, I do apologize. It's just hard to maintain energy from what I just did to getting very detailed on the lower 48. But we'll give you the briefing of what could happen today. We have troughing setting up over the eastern portion of the country. This is bringing some pleasant weather for the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region. And then we have this kind of upper low feature down here, which will continue to pump out moisture down here. And then we got a stalled weak frontal boundary over areas of the southeast, which will provide a threat for flash flooding and a lot of storms today. And speaking of that, there is a marginal risk of severe storms, which it goes from southern sections of Louisiana all the way into North Carolina. Okay, and this is just a standard risk of severe storms. There's no risk that's more severe than the other. Tornado risk will be low with this. Gusty winds, frequent lightning, some hail is possible with some of these storms. Excessive rainfall outlook with just basically a boundary in place. You're going to have the risk for flash flooding. There is a slight risk for today going from northeast Alabama, North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, North Carolina, southern Virginia, even areas of eastern Tennessee. There is a threat for flash flooding today. A slight risk, which means at least a 15% risk of flash flooding. Watches and warnings. The heat has been beat down for now. I can already see signs of another heat wave next week. I just don't think it's going to be as bad as what we just experienced. But you still got heat advisories confined to the southeast coastline of Texas through Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, and even Florida. But these will probably be dropped, especially on the eastern areas with the approaching Hurricane Idalia. We take a look at what can happen today based off the HRRR model, and there will be a corridor of heavy tropical moisture in eastern Tennessee, northern Alabama, all the way to the coastline of the Gulf Coast, and we're going to have a lot of shower and storm activity also developing in Florida. There is a big-time moisture pool being pulled into Florida, so we're already going to get, this isn't the outer bands, but this is kind of a funnel of moisture already being pulled into Florida. But as you can tell, showers and storms expected for the southeast today. We'll keep this in motion. We lose the daytime heating. We could have consistent showers and storms in northern Alabama, eastern Tennessee later in the period as we're getting into tomorrow morning. And we could wake up to some heavy rain in the western Carolinas, upstate South Carolina. But definitely be aware of this. We could have a corridor of very heavy rain from the bayou. We need the rain down here. Hopefully this will help cool us down where we've had a record-breaking heat of a summer. A record-breaking hot summer is what I meant to say down here in Louisiana. And definitely New Orleans could get an inch, maybe 2 inches of rain in this area. Southern Mississippi up to northern Alabama, North Georgia. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible. And to the Cumberland Plateau, a lot of rain is possible today. We go up to North Carolina, South Carolina. I think upstate South Carolina and most of North Carolina is going to get, and southern Virginia is going to get a lot of rain today. A lot of tropical rains with a stalled boundary. If you live in the low country of South Carolina, probably not as much rain, but we'll see. Northeast today, area of rain will move into the southern tier of New York State. This will approach the eastern areas of New York State a little bit later this afternoon. Could have some storm development in northern PA, eastern PA, east central PA really. Some more, I would say, consolidated heavy rain, maybe light to moderate rain, more so will move into the Delmarva region a little bit later this afternoon. And we could just deal with kind of a rainy, kind of spurts of heavy rain kind of day in central New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, even up to Maine. And then we're getting into tonight. We could still be dealing with some storms as we're getting maybe a little bit of some rumbles of thunder in the upstate of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. So we'll certainly watch that. We get into the south central U.S., and hopefully we'll get another day of a chance for some showers and storms. I don't think it's going to be as widespread in eastern Texas, Louisiana today. But if you live in southeast Louisiana, it is definitely going to be certainly going to be quite stormy today. But you get up in northern Louisiana, not as stormy. today as maybe it was yesterday. Let me know how much rain you guys got yesterday. I would love to know. Hopefully you got a good bit. Sorry, I'm losing some steam, guys. But we continue to move this forward here, and maybe some showers in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Outside of that, a pretty chill day. Pretty chill weather day for most of everybody in the lower 48. Kind of gives everybody a chance in the country to really kind of breathe a little bit before what's about to happen. Some storms are possible in northeast Minnesota a little bit later this afternoon, and these could drift into the panhandle of Michigan, northern Wisconsin a little bit later this evening. Not expecting any severe weather, but can't completely rule it out. And then by the time I'm waking up tomorrow morning, could have some rain in northern Michigan. Okay. Keep moving out west. Some showers possible along the front range. New Mexico could get some showers and storms. Certainly possible, but definitely not as widespread as what we've seen the last few days. I think Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, Idaho will be much quieter today. Not really expecting any rain out here at all. Temperatures, pretty pleasant day for late August standards. Fall type air mass across the Ohio Valley, Ohio River Valley, northeast. Pretty warm day, 60s, 70s, maybe some low 80s, especially once you get a little bit further south into the mid-Atlantic. Not too hot, maybe a little bit above average for areas of the northern plains, the upper Midwest. But, we're not dealing with widespread 100-degree plus temperatures down here, which is a good thing in the deep south. A little bit of a break from the heat for sure. It's pretty warm out west, but nothing record-breaking. Starting to heat up in the southwest. Definitely getting a pocket of pretty hot air up here in a notoriously hot area of Washington State. Somebody might try to get close to 100. So you're still dealing with above-average temperatures in the Pacific Northwest. So it's going to be a warm day. Stick to your local people with temperatures out here. Oof. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. We'll do it again tonight. And prepare because we have a difficult situation emerging into the Gulf of Mexico. God bless.